Welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. I might be becoming a bad baseball fan who can't enjoy the romantic things because of advanced statistics. 15 years from now, I want to be on the early baseball committee. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran.
I literally have the Fangraphs hoodie, the baseball reference t-shirt, just repping some stats, you know what I'm saying?
It's not necessarily Hall of Fame, it's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I'm your host, Chris Gianta. Over there, to my actual left, as you cannot see on YouTube, unfortunately, is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
I'm doing great, Chris. Excited to be here and talk some baseball with you.
Yeah. I'm excited too. See, that's not too far off from like what, you'd add a little flavor, but
yeah,
it's kind of the general idea.
So, context, I asked the AI bot on Snapchat to give me something to say on the Above Replacement Radio podcast when Chris asked me how I'm doing, and that's what it gave me.
Yeah. It's pretty much there. Like AI is close. And yeah, soon enough this podcast will be
entirely done.
Strictly AI.
Yeah, we will not be researching our own. How about that? Some slightly alarming.
Yeah.
It will be strictly the AI doing it.
Yeah, it'll be ARR AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we've been having a little bit of fun with that stuff the past week or so. But in actuality, there's been a good amount of news, more news than usual, in the past week of baseball. We're recording on a Saturday. Couldn't do Friday because I had some things that just popped up randomly. So had to take care of that, working on a big thing for the student media and whatnot, as both Daniel and I do.
Yes.
But the Oakland Athletics are getting $1 billion grant, pretty much, to have about 50 acres of land in Las Vegas. So basically the idea is they're moving to Vegas and building a stadium.
Yes, the A's, after about 20 years of trying to fix their situation and get out of the Coliseum, have officially announced where they're officially going. They're not staying in Oakland. They are going to Las Vegas. They're going to become the Las Vegas A's. If you know anything about this franchise, you know that relocation doesn't mean rebranding. They will stay the A's.
Yeah,
just like
true.
They did in Philadelphia, Kansas City, and Oakland. I don't know. This just sucks. It really sucks because the A's did so many sketchy things to lead up to this point where they refused to ever invest in their team. They, sold off every single player worth a shred of value over the last 20 years or so. They, drove away all the fans because they made it very clear that they did not want to commit to putting a winning product on the field. And naturally, when the fans decided not to go to the games, they decided to try to convince the fans that they were the problems and that they were not passionate enough for their team, so that they were going to pursue, relocating, and that's what they did. Anyone who knows the Oakland A's knows that A's fans not only are real, but they are rabid fans. Those people are crazy when the A's are good.
Yeah. I remember, when I was first starting getting into baseball as a league and not just following the Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
That was the early 2010s, and you'd see videos from the Coliseum. A big thing that's been going around is the Grant Balfour introduction in 2012 to clinch the division.
Yeah, that was awesome. That's only an Oakland thing. Name another city that does that ever did something like that.
Yeah, no.
There's none. And I can tell you Vegas won't do that.
Right. Even if the attendance numbers during that time were not, top 5 in the AL or whatever, the passion was certainly there. And, I know this year specifically, they trade their best player, they raise the ticket prices. So they kind of just put the fans behind the 8 ball. That's what they've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, they've given the fans zero incentive to come watch this team. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a good team. I mean, they even like the guys that they could try building around, they traded like Cole Irvin, Sean Murphy.
Right.
Yeah, there's just nothing. There's nothing to be desired when you're watching this team at all.
Yeah, no, there's nothing at all, and that's what's shown. Did they win last night?
They did 5-4.
So they're now 4-16.
Yeah.
But yeah, like and even when they were good in the late 2010s and 2020, they still had an extremely low payroll. They didn't necessarily have crazy star power. Like Matt Chapman and Matt Olson are good, but they're not. They're not necessarily like guys that are selling tickets. Marcus Simeon, he didn't really. He had a good year with Oakland, but didn't really break out until
he went to the Blue Jays.
Until he went to the Blue Jays and now the Rangers. Like they never went out. They never went out and got a guy that's like, wow, the A's got this guy. So it naturally fans don't attract to that. And what's funny is like preparing for this, I've just looked at like attendance data for like teams and whatnot, and I just looked at the Padres, who are they were considered a small market, and then the owner decided to chip in, add some players. Last year they were 4th out of 15 NL teams in attendance, but in 2017 when they were a non-competitive team, they were 10th out of 15 in attendance. So, when you put together a roster, fans are going to show up.
There was a video from last night of Peter Seidler, the owner of the Padres. He was in Arizona to watch Tatis, in his return from the suspension, and he was walking through like the concourse to get to his seat, and a bunch of Padres fans spotted him, started chanting his name, and went to take pictures with him.
Yeah, that's
like,
not a normal reaction.
No,
for an owner.
There are maybe 2 owners in Major League Baseball that would get that kind of fanfare. It's him and Steve Cohen.
Yeah.
Like Red Sox fans had to boo John Henry to bully him into signing Rafael Devers.
Yeah, and John Henry
and it was like the first time he had shown his face since like the Reagan administration.
Yeah, right. But yeah, and John Henry is one of the like sort of better ones.
Yeah, he's a guy that has brought 4 championships to Boston in a when he first got there, they were like, please just give us 1.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure if in 2018 he was going through the concourse, it would be a little different. But, after losing Betts, Bogarts, it's a little different now. Mm. But yeah, the A's owner is, it's been sort of documented how out of touch he is with not only his team but his stadium.
Yeah. There was a possum living in the broadcast booth. I don't know if you saw that. That came out literally this week.
Yeah. The Mets broadcast team had to relocate because of this, because there were possum droppings like in the studio. There's just hasn't been. There's been the seats falling apart. Even like in 2015, I think part of the wall collapsed.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so now no stadium in Oakland. They're going to Vegas.
Let me just put it to you this way: John Fisher, the owner of the Oakland A's, his net worth is $2.2 billion. Mm-hmm. The net worth of the Texas Rangers owner is $2.6 billion. So that's a $400 million difference between the two, which in the grand scheme of things is not the most. It's a decent amount, but not the most. One of those teams in the last 2 years has gotten a new stadium, bought Marcus Simeon, bought Corey Seager, bought Jacob deGrom, and one of them is like, oh, well, we re-signed Edwin Jackson, so now that means we can't get another guy that's worth 1 year and $2 million.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
Don't let these people fool you, especially because the A's have the most famous reputation for not spending money. Like, they made a whole movie about it, and it's like a beloved movie about like a triumphant moment in the franchise's history. Like, don't let that fool you into thinking they just don't have money.
Right.
Like, they do. They have the money. They just choose not to spend it because they want it to be profitable, and they don't care about putting a winning product on the field. That's just what it is.
Right.
There's no way around it.
Right. I mean, when you think about what made this team good in even just 2018, 19, and 20, some of the main pieces were Matt Olson traded, Matt Chapman traded, Marcus Semien let go in free agency without any real competitive offer to keep him around.
I don't even think they gave him the qualifying offer.
Probably not after his 2020 season. And then Liam Hendricks, the face of that bullpen, he gets let go in free agency, and there's probably a lot of people I'm forgetting.
That's just the most recent one. Like, remember the 2015? They traded Josh Donaldson, who became an MVP, and then they got objectively nothing for him. They traded the entire team.
Yeah, I guess in a non-competitive time, they did trade Sonny Gray, which you can justify that a little more because they were not.
I know that they got a good player for him, but they traded Yoenis Cespedes for 2 months of John Lester.
Yeah.
That was puzzling.
Like in a normal situation, when the team's good in 2018, 2019, it's like, oh, we have this good core, we should add to it.
Yeah.
That's not the way of operating. And
it's like, oh, we have 3 years with this core, and then we got to blow it all up.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's like, we were never surprised that the A's did this because that's their reputation, but that shouldn't be the expectation for an MLB team.
I mean, Sean Murphy was still like, what, wasn't he ARB1 when they traded him?
Yeah, his rookie year was 2020.
Yeah, so he was ARB1, and they traded Sean Murphy. They could have given him like a contract that we see pretty commonly nowadays, where it's like a 6-year deal that buys out 3 years of free agency, where it's like 10 to 15 mil a year.
Yeah,
they couldn't even do that.
No,
and it's not like they didn't have the money. They did. They just were like, oh, well, we don't want to pay a guy $15 million.
Right.
The other thing that really upset me was that they announced this at like 11 p.m. local time, right after a homestand ended, right before they went on the road for a week.
Yeah.
Like, it was very clearly strategic.
Mm-hmm.
They announced it at like 11 at night too, of course.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like they did everything they could to hide the story.
Right.
Which is just, it sucks.
Yeah, it does. It does for sure. And going back to the attendance thing and drawing attendance and all that, when it was the late 80s, early 90s, and they had stars, and they didn't have a cheap team and they had players that people wanted to watch. I think in 89 or 90 they were second out of 14 AL teams or 12 AL teams in attendance. It's not like Oakland has always been this place where people don't want to watch baseball.
Yeah, no, it's always been a desirable place. And I mean, I just don't understand, like, if you're an Oakland native, if you're someone who's watched the A's your entire life, how do you even watch this team now?
Yeah,
like, how can you get excited to watch games? Like, not only because they're bad, but like just knowing like it's over soon.
Right.
Like, how can you do that?
A, it's over soon. B, they're in a rebuilding phase, but what are they rebuilding?
They're in a tanking phase. They're not. I wouldn't even call it rebuilding.
Right, exactly. There's nothing to look forward to. It's not like, oh, they have like 6 guys in the top 100 prospect list.
Yeah, no.
They don't.
It's like so they're supposed to be moving to Vegas by 2027. That's when the stadium is supposed to be built. They could do like what the Los Angeles Chargers just did, though, where like they play in like a 30,000 seat soccer stadium for,
right.
Like there's a minor league ballpark in Vegas. What if they were like, you know what? We're just going to go there for the time being. We don't know exactly when the move is happening at this point.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it doesn't have to be in 2027. Point being, there's no reason to believe this team will ever be competitive again in their time in Oakland.
Yeah, exactly. And that's perfectly exemplified by, them trading Sean Murphy. He would have been there through 2025, I believe.
Yeah.
He would have been a good piece to have, along with people you could potentially build around him if they wanted to spend money at all.
Yeah.
But they're not doing that.
I really wonder if their spending model is going to change once they hit Vegas.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like obviously they will be in a bigger market, so like they might have more money to spend, but it's not going to be like the money hasn't been there the whole time.
Right. I would imagine that. I know when new stadiums are built, typically that comes with also just a change in the team in the spending model. We saw that with the Rangers. The new stadium built in 2020. Oh, 2022, you're getting Simeon and Seager. 2023, you're getting DeGrom and Evaldi and whatnot and Heaney.
Yeah.
I remember with the Marlins, that was a thing. They get this new stadium. Hey, here's Jose Reyes, Mark Burley. It didn't work, but they tried.
Yeah.
Maybe not every
Here's
single.
Giancarlo Carlos Stanton for 13 more years.
Right. Yeah. Maybe that's not the scenario with every single team that gets a new stadium, but those are the two big ones I've thought of.
Yeah, I mean that is pretty fair. I mean it's the Raiders. I mean obviously comparing MLB attendance to NFL attendance is so tough.
Yeah.
But like the Raiders have like a lot of opposing fans in their stadium that are like, hey, weekend in Vegas, watch the team, let's do it. Obviously, I think that the better comparison would be the Golden Knights, the hockey team.
Yep.
They draw good crowds, but they spend and they win.
Right. Yeah.
Like they've always been winning. They went to the Stanley Cup final in their first year.
Right.
There's no reason to expect, and not that the A's are starting from nothing. There's no expansion draft. They don't have to worry about, having to build a team from the ground up. Like they're already going to have a set in place team. We don't know where they'll be in, that time, but if they're not winning, who's to say? I mean, it's reasonable to believe that people wouldn't go to games if they're not winning because there's plenty of other things to do in Vegas.
Yeah.
When you don't want to watch a bad baseball team.
Right. Yeah.
Not every city can say that, but yes, Vegas, there is definitely things to do if you don't want to watch your bad baseball team.
Right. Exactly. Like, and we're seeing that with like
the Marlins.
Miami.
Yeah. It's like, why would I go to a Marlins game when I could do 500 other things in Miami that are fun?
Yeah, exactly.
Every single night.
Right. Same thing, sort of a lower payroll team.
Yeah, I mean, there are cities where it's like you go to St. Louis, you got to check out the Cardinals. There's the Gateway Arch, there's other things, but you got to check out the Cardinals. You go to Boston, you got to go to Fenway. You go to Chicago, you got to go to Wrigley. You go to Vegas, you're not talking about the sports.
Yeah, true. I guess Boston and Chicago specifically, they do have, when you have an old
stadiums,
you have an advantage for sure.
I could even say like Milwaukee. It's like you got to go to a Brewers game.
Right. Yeah, it's like a cool place, or like Houston.
Yeah.
Houston, I feel like, is a place where it's like, you should go to an Astros game, especially like, they're a good team. You can see a lot of good players.
Yeah, exactly.
With the A's, it's like, freaking,
Esteury Ruiz.
Waldachuk's out there.
Yeah.
Waldachuk's out there today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It sucks for any Oakland baseball fan. It's a real affront to you for sure. And it really sucks for sure.
I don't know if you saw this, but before this news came out, A's fans were planning a reverse boycott where they they picked one night and just packed the stadium to show that they weren't the problem.
It was like June 13 against the Rays.
I don't know if they're going to do that now because, I mean, what's it going to do at this point?
Yeah.
What they should do is like take like 40,000 fans, pack them all inside the parking lot, tailgate the game, and then leave.
Yeah.
Like, don't go in.
Right. Yeah, that would be cool. That would be a cool thing.
It's like, hey, look at all of us. We're here. We love this team. All right, see ya. We're not we're not gonna buy your tickets and give you money.
Right. Yeah. With these raised ticket prices.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we will be talking about the Las Vegas A's in a few years, or soon. At this point, it's like, just try to work it out with that minor league team. And play there for now, because it's just.
How many seats are in that stadium?
It makes me curious. Like, when did the Montreal Expos announce that they were moving?
It's a good question. I hope people don't talk in like 20 years talk about Oakland the same way we talk about Montreal, by the way, where it's like, because we've pretty much have a similar take where anytime people mention like, oh, we need to bring a team back to Montreal, it's like, actually, even when that team was good, they never drew crowds.
Yeah.
Like, look at their 94 and 95 attendance. They were still one of the worst in the league.
Yeah.
Oakland draws crowds.
Yeah, Oakland, and there's just like, there's plenty of just video evidence of
Okay,
that
so
being a fun place to watch.
The ballpark in Vegas, the minor league park, has a capacity of 10,000 fans.
Oh, so perfect.
Yeah, dude, that'd be the Aviators.
They could almost sell out.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, shout out to the Aviators. Well, I know the Nationals weren't in their current park when they moved there, so
No, they were in RFK
The announcement probably came soon
before it actually happened.
Before it actually happened, yeah. Well, anyway, so that's Oakland and Las Vegas and whatnot.
Yep.
There was a a foreign substance situation in the past few days on what was it, Wednesday? Yeah, I think because it was a day game, so it was probably a travel day.
Mm-hmm.
Max Scherzer, one of the best pitchers of this generation, maybe the best pitcher of this generation, 3-time Cy Young Award winner, 2-time $100+ million contract receiver. He was thrown out of a game on Wednesday because of foreign substances on his glove, I believe, and other parts of him, and ended up taking a 10-game suspension with a little resistance, but ultimately had to accept it because there was just he was just going to lose. What did you think about this scenario?
So he said after the game, he swore on his kid's life that there was nothing illegal on him. I believe him.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't have any. I mean, like, I've seen Max Scherzer pitch for my entire life as a baseball fan. I know that he was facing a very good lineup in the Dodgers, but I don't see any reason to believe for that specific day he was like, you know what? I'm going to use a foreign substance today.
Yeah, I think what it was
sweat and rosin, right?
Yeah. So I think what happened was he was using a legal thing, which was, your sweat and rosin.
Mm-hmm.
Rosin is given to pitchers.
Yeah.
And then, sweat is obviously naturally produced from your body, if you didn't know. But I think it was just it was like on his glove or something, and you're not supposed to have it on your glove. There was some technicalities that were being broken, and that's why he had to accept the suspension. It's not like he had, spider tack or, some unnatural thing. I think it was just misplaced was the issue.
Yep, I agree. One interesting point that baseball doesn't exist brought up was that since June of 2021, when they, put the foreign substance ban into effect, there have been 3 players ejected, and each of them have been by the same umpire.
Yeah, Phil Cuzzy.
Yeah, which is that definitely raises some alarms for me.
Right.
Like, are you telling me that no other, like, is he the only one who knows what a foreign substance is?
Right.
Or does he just have like these strictest standards?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, and those are all scenarios where guy comes off the mound and there's the check, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm definitely willing to believe that the standard of the other umpires has definitely lowered since
it absolutely
June
has.
of 2021.
Look at the checks now versus in 2021.
Yeah.
Like, you know that meme of like the really old security guard, like with doing like the pat down where he just like very lightly touches the guy for a second.
Yep.
Like
yep.
that's what every foreign substance check is now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, Phil Cuzzy, I guess, takes it, has a standard. Is it too high? I don't know. I'm not the judge of that.
I mean, given what every other umpire has had in their experiences, it seems like it probably is.
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
Like no one else has ever found a foreign substance, but he's found 3.
Right. Yeah. With the one of 15 MLB games. That's where the
Yeah.
foreign substances are.
Yep.
Um.
They target him.
Right.
They're like, this. I'm feeling it. I know that this guy has caught every single one, but this time we're gonna get away with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely interesting that he's the only guy. But there's probably just like a sort of unwritten thing of like, okay, maybe you can stretch this a little bit, but Phil Cousins having none of that. Like, there's probably been scenarios where there's some rosin on the glove, and it's just not that much of a worry because it probably just doesn't affect the ball too much. And no one's going out there with spider tack anymore, I would imagine.
Yeah, no.
That's just not happening. But yeah, any more thoughts on the Scherzer thing? It was kind of weird.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was kind of weird.
Yeah,
I don't really know.
I tried to read up on it because I've been sort of busy with things, and I read up on it. I read Ken Rosenthal had a slight column. I don't know if it was a column or if it was an article about it on The Athletic, and I don't remember exactly what he was saying, but the basic idea of it was that Scherzer kind of broke the rule on a technicality. He can't really appeal because he would lose because it is against the rules, but it's not like he was breaking the rules by an extreme measure that absolutely needed to be punished.
Yeah.
That's basically the crux of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if the umpire kind of just threw him out without him actually breaking the rules.
Yeah. So one subject I think we forgot to mention it when going over topics for today, but I think we could talk a little bit about Jeffrey Springs.
Yeah, that did happen this week.
We also were getting really excited about him. Left-handed starting pitcher for the Rays. Had a really good year last year with a 2.46 ERA. Was having a really good year this year, only allowing 1 run in I believe 16 innings so far this year. And Rays announced he needed Tommy John surgery. So he will, we won't be seeing him till probably late 2024. And it's a real bummer, but it's unfortunately a story that's been told about many Rays pitchers.
Yeah, someone needs to investigate this organization.
Yeah.
How, someone needs to do a study. I could probably try and do this myself, but I need a graph of how many teams have had a pitcher to have Tommy John surgery over the last 5 years. And I'm assuming the Rays not only are first, but they're first by a wide margin.
Yeah.
Why? Why does that happen?
If you're unaware, we could probably just list off. We could just probably go back and forth and list off names. And
2021 specifically, it was
it's an unfortunate inside joke.
Yeah, look at their injury history from 2021 alone.
Right.
I have to scroll down on Fangraphs so far.
Yeah, I made a joke in one of our little group chats we have about the Rays system, which is break out for about a year, get everybody excited, get Tommy John surgery, and then sort of disappear after that.
Yeah.
And that story's been told with many Rays pitchers. Nick Anderson is one, Oliver Drake, not Colin Poche, Chaz Rowe, Yanni Chirinos.
Tyler Glasnow even.
Yeah, Tyler Glasnow. Until he raises his profile more, he's sort of in that thing right now. Now Jeffrey Springs is part of that. Shane Boz.
Yep.
He got Tommy John surgery in the Rays organization. Yeah, it's a weird thing. And it seems to happen more with this specific organization. It's
Brandon
not that,
McKay.
Yeah, Brandon McKay.
Andrew Kittredge.
Andrew Kittredge, yeah, that's a big. That's one of the best examples because he was one of the best closers in 2021 out of nowhere, and then last year struggles a bit, and then gets Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, and now we have Jeffrey Springs going through the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, and it's not like Jeffrey Springs is a hard throwing guy.
No, and they also just gave him an extension too.
Yeah, they just gave him an extension, so good for him. Keeping,
Yeah.
being able to get some money, but yeah, it's tough. What did you think about this development here?
Yeah. I mean, it sucks obviously for the Rays. I mean, I know that their pitching will probably be fine regardless.
Yeah,
Right now on Fangraphs, they only have 3 people in their starting rotation. One of which is Taj Bradley, who has made 2 career starts.
yeah, right.
Yeah, they have Shane McClanahan, Drew Rasmussen, Taj Bradley.
Yeah, and luckily for the Rays, starting pitching was something we were specifically optimistic about heading into the year. Part of it was, because of Jeffrey Springs being in there, sort of a newer guy. Not
We didn't expect the start out of him that we got.
Yeah, not necessarily a younger guy. I think he is 30, but someone who was going to be good. However, yeah, now a bunch of guys are injured. Tyler Glass now, we knew was going to be injured heading into the season. Zach Eflin is now injured, which is not good. That's a guy who they signed for 3 years.
For the highest contract in franchise history.
Yeah. But yeah, now it's just McClanahan and Rasmussen from those like big 5 that we wanted to see. And now that's not there, but I don't know if the timeline has been altered at all on Tyler Glass now.
You know how scared Taj Bradley probably is right now?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, it's just like it's inevitable.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. It's terrible.
He's probably like 3 starts away.
Yeah, true. No, he'll be good this year.
Okay.
He'll be good this year.
Yeah. 2024 though.
Yeah.
That 2024 Taj Bradley Tommy John tweet's gonna suck real bad.
It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be real bad.
Curtis Mead too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, how does that genuinely? How does that affect your mindset as a big time Rays pitcher coming up into the system, seeing everyone around you getting Tommy John after a year?
Yeah,
that's got to be scary.
Right. Yeah. It needs to be investigated for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, it's really weird, and it was literally 2 episodes ago where we made that sort of joke.
Rays pitchers are here for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah, and
it's so true.
Yeah, I know. Like you said that after I was like, yeah, it'll be like the Rays will have this random guy break out with 2 first names. He'll be great until the Tommy John announcement in May of 2024.
Yeah. And
that literally just happened with Jeffrey Springs.
Literally, we could have made that joke about Jeffrey Springs at this time last year.
Yes, we could have. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess it's a good joke when it's sort of true.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that really sucks for Jeffrey Springs.
Hunter Greene.
Yeah. He has already had Tommy John surgery, right?
Yep.
So he's sort of immune to it, I guess.
Well, I mean, players do get it twice, but
Evaldi got it twice.
Yeah.
He did. But
yeah.
He's not a Ray, which is great. He's on the Reds.
He will be.
And he will be.
For I mean,
2 more years than originally planned?
I think it's 1 more year. 2 more with a club option. It bought out a year of free agency. Did it
start this year?
Yes.
Oh, so it started this year. I assumed it would have started next year.
No, it started this year.
So Hunter Greene is going to be around for an extra year. That's pretty cool, but it simulates arbitration. He gets his due.
This is the first actual sum of money that the Reds have committed to a guy in 2024.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because Joey Votto has a $20 million club option next year. Call me crazy, I don't think they're taking it.
Right.
They also have Will Myers on a 12-year mutual option. Mutual options are famously never taken, ever.
Yeah.
And they have Kurt Casale on a $4 million mutual option.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the only money they've quote-unquote committed to players past 2023. Until Hunter Greene, who got a 6-year, $53 million extension going through 2028 with a 2029 club option for $21 million. Greene is at exactly 1 year of service time, so yeah, this if that club option isn't taken, he will become a free agent prior to his age 29 season.
Yeah. That's very cool for him. Hunter Greene, he's been sort of on people's radar for a while. Obviously, he was the number 2 overall draft pick in 2017, and that was out of high school,
Yep.
which is that's a hard thing to do. Especially, I feel like high school draft picks were not as prominent 5 years ago as they are now.
That was definitely seen as a lot more of a risk back then, and now it's pretty common.
Had an interesting way through the minors, got Tommy John surgery in that journey to the MLB, and then arrived last year. Not the best year last year, but he had
a good, strong finish for sure.
And he also had, what you wanted out of him. He had the high velocity. He had a lot of strikeouts. He had a lot of swings and misses.
Yeah.
He just gave up some hard contact, some home runs, but nothing that is alarming for a team that's still very much developing, and also for a guy that was in his age 22 season. Now he's 23. This year so far in 17 innings, he has a 4.24 ERA, but 2.52 FIP, 12.7 strikeouts per 9. And, it's not surprising that the Reds want to invest in this.
Yeah, he also threw 105 miles an hour on opening day.
Yeah, he averages 99.2 on his fastball this year.
Yep.
In April.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this deal pretty much only sims arbitration, and usually when we say that, we kind of gloss over it, but it is pretty important. I mean, we've seen, especially with Corbin Burns, like how much of an effect it can have to not have to go through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I bet the Brewers wish that they had signed a deal like this for Corbin Burns in like 2018.
True.
Seeing where the teams are and the team and players at now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like arbitration can ruin people. It can ruin relationships. It can, send people out the door.
Right. Yeah, because it's a thing of
it almost did with the Yankees and Aaron Judge.
When it comes to free agency, like, am I really going to want to seriously negotiate with this team?
Yeah. Because listen, when you go through arbitration, all you hear is your team telling you, you don't deserve this money. You're not good. When you get to free agency, you have other teams telling you, hey, we need you. We want to have you on our team. Like, you are what we need.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a huge difference in hearing you suck versus you're awesome. Please take our money.
Right. Yeah. It is definitely a thing. And, having that extension happen between the Reds and Greene is a good sign for potentially, way down the line if they ever want to extend him again. There's already that built-in agreement, that happened 6 years prior. Hunter Greene gets an extension, and hopefully this is a sign of like the Reds investing in something, trying to build something. Because they're in the gutter right now, and there's not necessarily a pathway out, but hopefully there will be some better sign, maybe 4 or 5 years into Hunter Greene's contract.
Yeah.
Because him, there is some optimism with him and Lodolo and maybe even Ashcraft, with that rotation.
Absolutely. Ashcraft just needs to get more swing and miss, and he'll be a very good pitcher.
Yeah. We were going to talk about the Brewers yesterday. They did lose yesterday.
The Pirates are half a game out.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Yeah, the Pirates have
been... The NL Central just does not look anything like the way we imagined, which is pretty standard.
Yeah.
NL Central is just very whack. But it's the Brewers at 14-6, tied for the best record in the National League with the Atlanta Braves. The Pirates at 14-7, the Cubs at 12-7, the St. Louis Cardinals at 8-12, and then the Reds at 7-13. Pretty much the only team that's performing at expectation level in that division right now.
Yeah, the Reds. Shout out to them,
Yeah.
being consistent. Yeah, the Pirates are 14-7. Brewers are 14-6. Brewers were interesting because yesterday, for research purposes, I looked at what the Brewers were up to, and they had at the time. I haven't done the digging since then, but going into
Yesterday's game.
Friday's game against the Red Sox, they had a 2.96 team ERA, which is great, but a 4.22 team FIP, and their BABIP against for pitchers was 2.54.
Wow.
Which is wild for
That's not
20 or 19 games into a season.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the luckiest difference between batting average and expected batting average. And some of that could be attributed to defense. They did have they were fourth in outs above average going into yesterday. So I guess they do have some good defense, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a 2.54 team BABIP against. So yeah, I found that interesting. So make of that what you will. I didn't point out any specific pitchers with that, but there's probably a good amount of pitchers who were benefiting from some better luck than normal.
Yeah, no doubt about that. The Brewers are 14-6. The Pirates are the shout out to my sleeper team for real. Shout out to my 2022 Colorado Rocky to watch, Connor Joe, who's leading the team in B-WAR at 1.0.
Yep.
I don't know. They've had a lot of guys breaking out. Jack Sawinski seems to be pretty legit. He's kind of exclusively slugging, but that's what he did last year as well. Jason DeLay very casually has a 138 OPS plus. I don't expect that to stay as is.
Mm-hmm.
Rodolfo Castro has a 138 OPS plus. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up at like 115 to 120.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, they still could be getting more out of Ke'Bryan Hayes. He has a 610 OPS, and they're doing all this without O'Neal Cruz.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but they're doing a lot of it without O'Neal Cruz. They've won. They're on actually a pretty decent win streak right now. They've won 5 in a row, with 2 of those being by scores of 14-3 exactly.
Yeah, Jack Sawinski, by the way, I know Foolish Baseball has been tweeting about him, and I just he's a baseball. He was built for baseball savant.
Yep. Yeah.
Average exit velocity 95th percentile. xWOBA 99th, X slugging 100th, barrel rate 100th, and chase rate 100th.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a barrel rate and a chase rate.
Those are usually not intertwined with each other.
Yeah, for example, someone who's always in the barrel, at the top of the barrel rate leaderboard is Aaron Judge, and he had the most barrels in Statcast history last year. And if you go to his 2022, his chase rate was good, but it wasn't 100th percentile. It was 84th percentile.
I'm willing to bet most of that went up in September when he was walking 25% of the time.
Yeah,
it probably could have been 60th or 70th percentile before then.
But a better example might be
Mike Zunino in 2021.
Yeah,
right?
Mike Zunino 2021, 100th percentile barrel rate, 48th percentile chase rate.
Yeah.
He hits the ball hard in the air a lot, but also, maybe not the best plate discipline. There's not usually a high correlation, but
yeah. Also, Andrew McCutchen has a 148 OPS plus.
Yeah.
Very fun, very cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah, the Pirates. The Pirates were interesting because we we witnessed them at the start of their little streak. We were at Fenway. We watched them beat the Red Sox in the first of 3 wins against the Red Sox to sweep them.
They gave up 5 runs in the first inning and then 1 in the next 8.
Yeah, and since then, they defeated the White Sox in a series. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Astros, but I guess they weren't gonna take care of business there. They split a series with the Cardinals, and they've swept the Rockies and have won 2 of the first 4 games against the Reds. Yeah. So they're beating the teams they're supposed to, but they're also
there's reason to be excited.
They're also beating the teams above them a little bit. there's and shout out to you for having them in third place before the season started.
Yes, sir.
So yeah,
Clearly, I didn't give them enough credit because they're in second
yeah,
by a game.
yeah. But even the Cubs aren't doing bad. 12-7 this year.
No, I mean Drew Smiley.
Yeah,
Yeah. The Cubs have I think the best run differential actually in the National League.
yeah. They're
Their
Pythagorean.
is 14-5.
All right. Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, that's pretty wild. But yeah, NL Central continues to be crazy. That was one of the when we were doing predictions, that was one of the divisions where I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm saying Cardinals, but I've been wrong about this every single time before. So yeah, who knows who's actually going to win this division? And it seems to be the same way in the short time we've had to watch the 2023 season.
Yes.
Um,
By the way, interleague play right now, the AL and NL are tied 37-37, which is very satisfying.
That's good.
I like that a lot. It's very cool.
In a year where interleague has expanded.
Yep.
So that is fun. All right. Do we want to get into players to highlight?
Yes, I do.
All right. So now we will get into first of all, the players or subjects that have really been standing out for us in a positive way for our Saturday, April 22, 2023 edition of How About That? Who do you have for us today?
So my how about that comes from the Oakland Athletics.
Wow.
The Oakland A's. I'm talking about Brent Rooker, who has been kind of raking for them in 48 plate appearances. He is slashing 325, 417, 650 for a 1067 OPS and a 199 weighted runs created plus. That weighted runs created plus ranks 7th among all hitters with at least 40 plate appearances this year. He is also in the top 10 percentile in average exit velocity, expected weighted on base average, expected batting average, expected slugging, and barrel percentage. So basically, he is just making the best kind of contact on all fronts. And also, he's swinging and missing a lot less. He has never had a strikeout rate below 23% or a walk rate above 8% in any season before this year. His K rate and walk rate are both at 14.6%.
Wow.
He has a 1-to-1 walk-to-strikeout ratio. And among the 289 hitters with at least 25 batted balls this year, his ground ball rate of 29.4% ranks the 13th lowest, and his fly ball rate of 35.3% ranks the 29th highest. Again, that's out of 289. We say this a lot when we highlight guys on bad teams, but I feel like this is more cliche than ever. Not a lot to be excited about in Oakland right now. A's, listen, I know you're losing your team, but Brent Rooker is doing very well.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Brent Rooker. How about that? Yeah, he's definitely broken out so far in 2023. My how about that is someone I wanted to gloss over when we were just talking about this team. But Connor Joe, he's really been killing it.
Mm-hmm.
Connor Joe, in 61 plate appearances, is hitting 377 with an 1138 OPS and a 209 OPS plus. Out of 193 hitters with 60-plus plate appearances this year, his average ranks third, on-base percentage ranks third, slugging ranks fourth, OPS ranks second, and weighted runs created plus ranks second. Those two are behind Matt Chapman, who's really broken out and was a how about that of yours earlier this year. From last year to this year, Connor Joe's average exit velocity has gone from 85.3 miles per hour to 91.8 miles per hour. His hard hit rate has gone from 33.8% to 56.1%. Barrel rate has gone from 4.5% to 14.6%. And sweet spot rate has gone from 35.1% to 43.9%. And pop-up rate has gone from 7.1% to 2.4%. He has, I think, 41, 42 batted balls, and he only has one pop-up, which is great. Love to see that. Also with Connor Joe, his hard hit rate is in the 94th percentile in all of baseball, And out of 289 hitters with 25 plus batted balls, his sweet spot rate ranks 19th, which is probably like top 7% out of those 289 hitters. So Connor Joe really hitting the ball well so far this year for the Pirates, part of that Pirates breakout that's happening right now. So yeah, Connor Joe.
How about that?
So now we move on from the highs to the lows, where we're talking players or subjects that have been underperforming for our Saturday, April 22, 2023 edition of
Slightly alarming.
Who do you have for us today?
So we were, of course, supposed to record this episode yesterday, and my slightly alarming happened to go 3 for 5 with a homer yesterday.
Oh, wow.
I still put him, though. I'm talking about Trey Mancini, who is now slashing 246, 265, 354 for a 619 OPS and a 66 weighted runs created plus.
Yeah, that's still not great.
It's still not great, but he did have a 39 weighted runs created plus yesterday.
Yep.
His minus .4 FWAR is tied for the 5th worst among qualifiers. He has a 1.4% walk rate and a 29% strikeout rate. This gives him the 2nd worst walk-to-strikeout ratio among qualifiers at 0.05, which is very bad. He has never had a fly ball rate below 19.1% in his career before this season, but in 2023, his fly ball rate is at 10.9%. That is the 7th lowest among the 285 qualifiers. Lastly, 73.9% of his batted balls have gone less than 200 feet. That usually means it's a ground ball or a pop-up. And as you can imagine, he's not doing very well on such balls. But that rate is the 7th highest on that same list of 289 hitters with at least 25 batted balls. So Trey Mancini, he's not making the right kind of contact. He's not walking. He's striking out quite a bit. And he is my slightly alarming for that reason.
Trey Mancini.
Slightly alarming.
And yeah, the fly ball rate isn't good because Mancini has been historically a guy that relies on power more and hitting the ball over the fence. So yeah, if Tony Kemp was not hitting the ball in the air a lot, that would actually probably be a good thing.
Yeah.
But when it's Trey Mancini, you want that ball in the air. You want those barrels to be happening, and they're just not so far this year. So my slightly alarming got rained out yesterday, so my numbers
nice.
are all. I got lucky. All my numbers are the same except for the rankings. I double checked the rankings. My slightly alarming. You could just do this for over the course of since the start of last year, but I'm going with just this year so far. It's Avisail Garcia.
Yeah.
In 50 plate appearances, he is hitting 156 with a 453 OPS. Out of 230 hitters with 50-plus plate appearances this year, his OPS is 9th worst, and his on-base percentage is 6th worst. He also has a 32% strikeout rate and only a 4% walk rate, and has the 18th worst walk-to-strikeout ratio out of those 230 hitters. Garcia also has an 87.8 mile-per-hour average exit velocity, which is the worst it has been since that's been tracked in 2015. Along with that, he has a 55.2% ground ball rate, 13.8% pop-up rate, 13.8% line drive rate, and 13.8% sweet spot rate. When your pop-up rate and your line drive rate are the exact same, and your pop-up rate and sweet spot rate are the exact same, not the best sign.
That's a yikes.
That's unless they're both like 50%, which is the
which
wildest,
would be really funny.
which is the wildest thing ever. It's not great because
I want someone to do that one day, even just for like a 5-game sample.
Yes, but yeah, his pop-up rate is almost double league average, and his sweet spot rate is like 40% of what league average is. So out of 289 hitters with 25-plus batted balls this year, he has the 34th highest ground ball rate, 22nd highest pop-up rate, 18th lowest line drive rate, and the lowest sweet spot rate out of 289 hitters. Lowest sweet spot rate along with a 32% strikeout rate and 4% walk rate. That means, he's not putting the ball in play a lot, and when he is putting the ball in play, it's not going in the right direction. He's either grounding the ball or popping the ball up, which are the two worst forms of contact to have. So Avisail Garcia is looking pretty bad. He's looked bad for, unfortunately, his entire time with the Marlins so far, and that has not changed so far this year. So Avisail Garcia.
Slightly alarming.
All right. So that does it for players to highlight. Now we will get into, not necessarily a preview of the weekend ahead, but this will be more leaning toward what you have for us with the day-by-day matchups. In terms of series to watch for the next couple days, there are some good teams going after it, and luckily,
there's 2 different World Series rematches happening.
Yeah, I should double check what that is. Oh yeah, Guardians Marlins. Lots of things have changed there.
Also we got Washington,
Braves,
Minnesota. The winner gets the legacy of Walter Johnson.
They do, yeah. That's not been talked about enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, Braves Astros, that's a great series to watch because both teams are actually still relevant right now. Not necessarily the same with the Guardians and Marlins, although the Guardians are...
The Marlins are over 500.
The Marlins are over 500, despite Avisail Garcia. And D-backs Padres, that's a good matchup.
D-backs won last night.
Yeah, and they have...
and they lost the previous night to the Padres.
And they have, I believe, the best record in the NL West.
They do, by 2 games.
Yeah, so a team to look out for. We knew they were going to be exciting. So yeah, definitely a team to look out for against the Padres. And yeah, Mariners Cardinals is also interesting. Not a matchup you get to see too often. But yeah, Mariners Cardinals, 2 projected playoff teams. So look out for them. That is being played at T-Mobile Park. What do you got for day-by-day matchups?
So on Saturday, which is today, this is an exciting one. It's not necessarily the best matchup numbers-wise, but Alek Manoah versus Garrett Cole is just a lot of fun. Manoah has had a lot to say about the Yankees. Cole hasn't really had much to say, but he's kind of just the target automatically. These teams kind of don't like each other. They really haven't for a while. But that'll be a fun matchup today. In Nats Twins, you have Pablo Lopez going for Minnesota. I believe the first start after his extension for him.
Yeah.
Probably. In Dodgers Cubs, you have Dustin May versus Hayden Wesneski. Wesneski had his best start of the year last time out against the A's. In the first end of Marlins Guardians, Shane Bieber will be going. The Marlins have not announced their starter for that one. David Peterson and Logan Webb will be going against each other in Mets Giants. The Giants... Mark Simon pointed this out on Twitter today. They have really struggled against lefties. I'm going to check the actual numbers.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because they got shut out last night by Joey Lucchesi.
Yeah, they've just been overall struggling in general.
They have. Against lefties, the Giants have a... Please hold. Yeah, they have a weighted runs created plus of 60. That's the second worst in Major League Baseball in front of the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah.
That's not a deal. A 574 OPS, 267 OBP. So look out for David Peterson today. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
You will have Joey Wentz and Kyle Gibson going against each other in Tigers-Orioles in Baltimore. Shintaro Fujinami versus Andrew Heaney in A's-Rangers. Garrett Whitlock versus Wade Miley in Red Sox-Brewers. Framber Valdez versus Kyle Wright in Astros-Braves. Joe Musgrove versus Merrill Kelly in Padres D-backs. Zach Greinke versus Tyler Anderson in the don't throw it above 91 miles per hour game.
Yep.
Miles Michaelis versus Luis Castillo in Cardinals-Mariners. And matchup of the night comes from White Sox-Rays. It's going to be Dylan Cease versus Shane McClanahan at 4 p.m.
Yeah, that's the those are 2 Cy Young vote getters from last year.
That is correct. So then on Sunday, where we'll finish this off, we will have Jose Urena and Zach Wheeler going against each other in Rockies-Phillies in Philadelphia. Erod versus Grayrod. Eduardo Rodriguez versus Grayson Rodriguez in the finale of Tigers-Orioles. That's fun. Hunter Greene will be going for the Reds against the Pirates. It'll be Vince Velasquez for Pittsburgh. Kevin Gausman versus Clark Schmidt in the finale of Blue Jays-Yankees. Lucas Giolito will be going for the White Sox against the Rays. The Rays have yet to announce their starter. Jesus Luzardo will be going for the Marlins against the Guardians. Brian Bayo and Corbin Burns will be facing off in Red Sox Brewers. Clayton Kershaw and Marcus Stroman will be facing each other in Dodgers Cubs. Reed Detmers will be pitching for the Angels against the Royals. Yu Darvish and Dre Jameson will be facing each other in Padres D-backs. Jack Flaherty and Chris Flexen will be facing each other in Cardinals Mariners. And on Sunday Night Baseball, it'll be Tyler McGill versus Ross Stripling in Mets Giants. And matchup of the day comes from Braves Astros. It's going to be Christian Javier versus Max Fried.
Yeah, those Fried second in Cy Young last year, and Javier
Didn't get Cy Young votes.
got
but
his made his mark from September on last year, where I think he, including postseason, like from September on, I think he allowed like 2 runs in like 35 innings or something like that.
Yeah.
Pretty wild. Still wondering if Jacob deGrom is going to make this next start for personal reasons.
Yeah.
He came out with the wrist soreness, but it was described as precautionary. I don't know. Wrist soreness just seems weird, almost fake. All right. So, yeah, that does it for this edition of Above Replacement Radio. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch our digital content, go to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. And if you're listening on YouTube and want to just listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to make it an easier audio experience, go check out the Spotify and Apple Podcast streams. They are also called Above Replacement Radio. If you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran. And follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. And we hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you next time, where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball once again. See you then.
This conversation is over.